Happy lunch hour, guys. Tuesday afternoon. So, I bet you thought I'd be coming on here to talk about something like, oh, I don't know, price of natural gas up 7% today after 3.5 or something yesterday. It's up 10% for the week. Maybe I could talk about price of coal up 8% today. Y'all think that the craziness that I've been talking about in the energy industry is crazy? Yeah. Uh, so those are things. What I want to talk about here is something a little different. Okay. Well, most of the stuff I talk about is different. Just the kind of way I do things. For years, for 4 years, let's put it this way, a lot of us were berated. Oh, you're nationalist. You're America first, or what? Insert country here. Do that every time. uh, thinking about yourselves, and we all know, a lot of you guys are older than me, to remember going back to the Vietnam War and the guys coming home and, what they got treated like and everything. And there's still a lot of that type of thought for military police for sure. Okay. In the U.S. It's like, oh my God, if you're any sort of law enforcement or national defense or anything like that, you're the boogeyman. You're terrible. The problem that you get is that seems to be somewhat of a Western anomaly right now, where the good guys are the bad guys and the bad guys are the good guys. Okay, yes, and I know you guys can all make the biblical references on it. It's many times do, good being evil and evil being called good. All right, but I want to give you this one. Now, whether or not you're a movie fan or anything like that, but I think everybody will know this one. New James Bond movie came out last weekend, I guess it was. Daniel Craig's fifth and final film as being James Bond, and supposedly this is a great movie, and yet I haven't seen it, so don't know. You think that would probably be the biggest movie in the world, right? With all the hype that's on it, and the character's been portrayed for pushing 60 years at this point. Nope, not even by a long shot. You want to know what the biggest movie in the world is right now? It's a movie called The Battle at Lake Changjin. It's a Chinese film depicting their victory, if you will, during the Korean War, and how the Chinese had supported North Korea in holding the 38th parallel. All right. Now, China, if you are familiar at all with China and the Chinese government and the Chinese way of life, okay, country is everything. I mean, the citizens of China literally are forced to worship Xi Jinping as God. I kid you not, okay? But they are manipulating, if you will, again, the national conscience to get ready for this. Now, if you go back to the Korean War, all right, the Chinese Communist Party had existed for all of 1 year at this point. And so they had the People's Volunteer Army. I mean, they didn't have a navy. They didn't have an air force. I mean, they had a bunch of peasants with whatever weaponry, if you whatever they could scrounge. And somehow they held back the U.S. military and Douglas MacArthur. Now, fast forward 70 years, 65. And now you have a modern military in a country of 1 point some odd billion people, and they are stoking up the sense of national pride and the nationalism into these people, going, if we could fight and win with a bunch of ragtag peasants. What could we do? Now, there's a lot of talk about, the skirmishes, if you will, on the Indian border. North Korea is kind of flexing their muscle. And obviously, we know what's going on with Taiwan. Now, you have to remember that the Chinese government will try to manipulate their people in any way possible. That's communism. You have to, like I said, worship at the altar of Xi Jinping, or, everything you do is for the country, for the Chinese Communist Party. What better way to manipulate the people than a movie showing them defeating the great superpower, if you will? We talk about in the States all the time, and everywhere else in Western Europe, the influence peddling, for lack of a better word, that Hollywood tries to put out. That they get all the media, the Rose McGowans of the world talking, or Cher, or pick any of the late night comics or anything like that, and how they're talking to the masses and trying to poison their mind with all these liberal ideas. Same concept here, guys. Exactly the same thing. Except the Chinese people have been brainwashed for so long and threatened for so long that they will do this. You go back to any of World War II, you go back to Korea, you go back to Vietnam, whatever, the art of war, the Asian mentality, if you will, of war, suicide bombers, kamikaze pilots, whatever, that is dying an honorable death. Okay. And if they are now promoting to the people, look at how we were able to take on a big superpower, that is something of a tell to the rest of the world that they've got plans coming up. All right. And with everything else that's going on in the world, I'm not going to go out on conspiracy theory here or anything like that, but, people have mentioned what's going on with all these cargo ships, what's on board. I've talked about before about Chinese training in Mexico, Chinese training in Canada. I did a whole video one time on coming in from the north, coming in from the south, and what do you have from the east and the west? That's naval, who knows? But just pay attention to what's going on, because it's gonna, anything that happens is gonna come as a surprise. You're gonna wake up one morning and go, "Oh my God, what the hell's going on?" Scene from Red Dawn, the first movie. Okay, we'll talk about the second one too. But the kids are sitting in school, and all of a sudden you have paratroopers landing out in the field right next to the school. Nobody had any idea it was coming. Just be aware, be ready, be prepared for that type of scenario. I'm not trying to be a fearmonger, scare anybody or anything like that. I'm just trying to look at all the possibilities of what's going on and put a lot of these pieces of the puzzle together to look at what's going on. But manipulation of the people to get them to start supporting something like this is always a first step. Okay. Go back to FDR's speech after Pearl Harbor. Okay. That was to get the American people riled up and rallied up and beyond, ready to fight. Because before that, we weren't even going into Europe, and Europe's already been going, the war in Europe had already been going on for 2 years. Okay. Something to pay attention to, guys. Just thought I'd bring that one out to you. Have a good one. Pinball out.